our next speakers. Now, there was a bereavement, unfortunately, with one of our speakers today. So unfortunately, Helena Power won't be joining us. We send our condolences and we hope she's doing okay. However, we have Senator Eileen Flynn with us today. We also have Samantha Corcoran. Sammy is a Talis student, social care background, and she's stepping in today because, like everybody that's here today, she's got an awful lot to say, and I'm so delighted that she's here to talk. So, Samantha's going to lead the conversation, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say. And thanks, Pierre, Miriam, for your time. And what I'll do actually, Sam, just for your own benefit, I will put my hand up when it gets to about 10 minutes, and so then you know where you stand, right?
Grant. Thanks a million, and thanks so much for asking me. I feel so humbled listening to everybody speaking so passionately, and especially about leadership. And how important it is to hear other people's voice, and not just straight white men for a change. So it's really been empowering. I'm delighted to be asked to come here. Eileen, lovely to meet you. You're so inspirational. I thought we might just start off with if you could maybe talk about some of the barriers that you faced kind of on your journey to leadership.
Firstly, Samantha, to say I was 25 when I was comfortably like a member of the traveller community. Before that, I had many challenges within myself, as a young woman growing up in Ballyfermot, going to primary school, secondary school, doing an access course in Trinity College, to doing PLC in Ballyfermot, and then going on to do the degree in Maynooth. I had a lot of, like, anytime you turn on the TV and the news, there are always negative media towards the traveller community, and basically we're always held responsible for each other's actions. I found that very tough. And rejection in life, that rejection, you're getting rejected in relationships. If you're going to pursue relationships because you are a member of the traveller community, you're getting rejected going up to a pub, a club, with the rest of your friends who happen to be members of the settled community. And that rejection can be that rejection within itself can actually be your biggest barrier. And then again, like we have to do, a lot of us have to just do the access courses, because the opportunities to go in the ordinary way, whatever ordinary is, into university is still not there for members of the traveller community. So we're very lucky to have access, but we all have access to education. But to be able to be successful within the education system is what the issue is. I did Leaving Cert Applied. While if I had had the right supports, I would have been able to do the traditional Leaving Cert. I wasn't even asked that I want to do the traditional Leaving Cert. I done what I was given. And for me, really, it was just about completion. It was about getting something in my life. And again, I did the access course just to complete it. I didn't pass. I didn't do extremely well. Obviously, I graduated, but I didn't graduate like the rest of my peers. I didn't graduate with the hat and the gown. I just showed up in my own dress because I did complete it. And that again, like, because the support wasn't there when I was in Trinity College. I remember going to the disability officer. I had dyslexia, I still have it, obviously. And after doing the Leaving Cert, and that's like as thick as a plank, if you want, I know my ABCs, the alphabet, and he came to me with a book that I wouldn't give to my child who's sitting beside me, because she knows her alphabet as well. And I remember feeling so absolutely horrible within myself, and again, rejected. And this is what he thinks of me because I'm a member of the traveller community. Do you know what I mean? I'm stupid. And so that was some of the barriers for me as a younger person. When I was 25, I got involved with the repeal movement. Now, I was on the opposite side of repeal. I didn't understand feminism. I didn't understand equality for women, and I also didn't understand that if your community puts men here and puts women there, like down lower, well, then there's something wrong with your culture. There's something wrong with your way of life. And I started exploring all this at 24 to 25. I pushed through and got involved in the repeal campaign. Now, while I was involved with other campaigns like homeless crisis and justice for undocumented people in Ireland, I remember standing up in Merriam Square and realising on the spot when I was giving a talk in front of thousands of people, the majority being women, that, you know, we as travellers are not the issue. It's society that's the issue. Society is the problem. The systems that we have, education system, health systems, all these systems that's built to keep the others out, that's built to keep people of colour, black and brown people out, disabled people out, because if you give us a voice, we'll become powerful. We'll be no longer the powerless, you know, and that's what society doesn't want. You don't want us to be powerful. They don't want us to be able to stand up and do our opinions and have our voices heard, you know. And when you're in a role like I'm in, when you're in the Shannon, say, right, like not one member of the Oireachtas was voted in. Technically, I wasn't voted in. I missed out by a very, very narrow vote, where it took 5 men and my panel to climb over me and second vote. So I still didn't do it by myself. You know, I still didn't do it by myself. And I'm very grateful for the Taoiseach for his nominee, you know. But the reality of it is, like, where's the person from the minority group that will speak up for the others, that will try their best, while they understand, and I understand, I'm not a black woman. You know, I can hide my identity. Well, I could have hid my identity. When you're a black person, you can't hide your identity. And I have to look at my own privileges as well. And I don't understand every single culture in Ireland. And what I try and do is just speak with people. I don't speak for, because I think we have to speak with, you know, and raise the important issues. And that's what I tried to do. But again, Louise was saying to me last week when she asked me to be here, she said, we got 11 application forms. Oh God, true. We got 11 application forms from members of the traveller community. And I would absolutely credit the Access course for that, because 11 application forms is an awful lot when we have under 1% of travellers going on to third level education. You know, so again, that is a positive change. It's a step in the right direction, if you want. So less than 1% of the traveller. Now we make up 1% of the population, but like it's just like 0.5 of the traveller community that go on to third level education. Yet if we look at Blackrock, Foxrock, they're all 80%, 75%. Now, I'm not here today to argue and say that, you know, people from Foxrock or Blackrock don't deserve an education. Obviously, all people deserve an education. What we're looking for as communities is a hand up, not for handouts, not for special treatment. And I think that's what's important. Like traveller people, people with disabilities, people of colour are not looking for handouts, because we're not just travellers. We're not just people who are black. We're not just anything. Like, we're people that want to go on, and we have ambitions as well. We have dreams to go on and be doctors, dreams to go on to be say like politicians, to go on and to make something of our lives, you know. And we deserve them spaces too, as people from minority groups. But again, it's always about pushing through, and defining your community all of the time. And I think it's really sad right now in this country, where we're seeing migrants and refugees standing up, speaking out for their rights, but also being defined that they're not criminals. And I've done that for many years for our community on many platforms. And that is absolutely very sad. And it's a horrible thing that you have to do, is to find that you're not a criminal, that you're not a bad person, that your community bring more to society than all the problems that we see, or the issues that we see and the media.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like you touched on it as well, that it is the systemic structures within society that actually you know, it's not that people from marginalized groups want special privileges, but there needs to be an acknowledgement that not everybody starts from the same starting line. Some people are starting way further down, and it's about trying to rectify that and really amplify those voices and really say, you know, even when it comes to like language, especially around the traveling community and the language that's used in the papers, for example, people don't realize just how hurtful to the community that can be. Like for me as somebody in addiction, when the newspapers are talking about junkies, and like it comes with this thing of, oh, a junkie is somebody who uses drugs and robs people and doesn't care, when in fact, when they say junkie, what they actually mean is somebody who uses drugs to deal with the trauma from the society that they live within that rejects them. You know, so there are some really, really ingrained issues there that I think through events like this, through having you know, more voices in the Seanad, in politics, that really is the way forward. It's slow, it's grueling, but sure, look, if we don't start now, we never get there, you know.
And you know, Samantha, we have many good pieces of legislation. You know, we have many good ideas in our heads as a society, but really it's about implementing those policies, those legislation, the hate crime legislation. Hate crime legislation, just like same-sex marriage, just like women being able to have access to safe abortions. Like, hate crime is not going to stop the crime from happening, you know. But what I will do is make people feel that little bit safer, you know. And we're looking at that in April and May. It'll come through the Seanad, it's going through the Dáil in April. And to push through that and to be involved in a campaign going back 12 years ago, the Love Not Hate campaign, and to say, like, you know, they haven't rushed it up. And again, there's good, if we look at paper, say at the European level, we are actually, we're top class. But yet if we look deeper into it, we're failing. We're not meeting our obligations. We're not putting our money where our mouth is. And I think that's the hardest challenge. One of the hardest challenges is to get those pieces of legislation that we have that's meant to protect people, like the white paper. Obviously that wasn't legislation, but we're meant to end direct provision. I understand what's happening in Europe. It's not appreciated at the moment. You know, nobody expected it. But why does people in direct provision have to suffer?
Yeah.
You know, when we already had plans to end direct provision. So that's put on the long finger again. And that could be another 15, 20 years before direct provision is ended. And kind of from living in a halting site, you know, that surrogation, that tight community, like if people haven't got no sense of freedom, it creates all kind of issues within as well. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in really quickly, and we've just gone over time a little bit. If anyone has any questions for Senator Eileen Flynn or Samantha Corcoran, go for it now. Otherwise, if you wanted to wrap up, girls, and if there's anything you wanted to kind of finish up on, I can keep an eye out for questions. And obviously, guys, all the information for the speakers are available through the bio. So when you logged in, and get me wording wrong. So if you wanted to contact Eileen directly, like, she's available on Twitter, Samantha's available as well. So I'm just going to leave you to kind of finish up for the next 2 minutes. And yeah, thanks. This has been fascinating listening to you girls. It's brilliant. Thanks so much.
Samantha, have you got anything around addiction services in Ireland that you think we could better it, and, like, you know, that people have access, but also not just to have the services, concrete services, like, you know, the services that work with families and with individuals who are going through addiction?
Yeah, I mean, the addiction services, they have really come a long way, but it's nowhere near far enough. There's still extremely long wait lists to get into treatment. And the aftercare, I've kind of identified aftercare as being one of the biggest areas now. So what's happening is people are going into treatment for maybe 1 month, 3 months, and then they're coming out, and then they're going straight back in to where they were before they left. So I would work with a lot of people in the homeless sector experiencing homelessness, and they would go from a hostel into a stabilisation service for 5 weeks and then get released and then go back to the hostel. because there's no aftercare there. And it is, I mean, the hostel system in Ireland is really shocking, and somebody in early recovery, it would be it would honestly be surprising if they could keep their recovery while living in those situations. So I really think, I mean, the legislation we have now, reducing harm, support and recovery, that is a step in the right direction. It is starting to see addiction as, you know, we're moving away from the stigma of, you know, addiction is a choice somehow, and we're moving more into harm reduction, more into safe ways to use drugs. But yeah, I really feel the aftercare sector is somewhere that needs a lot of work and attention at the minute. What about yourself? Going forward, what kind of advice would you give anyone from the traveling community, or a woman or a mother? What advice would you give them in leadership, going for leadership in the future?
I just think that, you know, people will always try to belittle you. Like, you know, I said a word like wronger, worster, stuff are getting worster for refugees in Ireland, right? But the reality was the far right didn't like the fact that I was speaking with people in direct provision. So they found anything that they could to attack me with. And that went down for about, like, it's absolutely ridiculous. It went down for about 3-4 weeks, you know, and all these little shitty little quotes and social media, and all this can all be because, like, people can actually attack you now in your home because you're on social media, and Twitter doesn't deal with it in any way of a sensitive way, or if you want to say, don't deal with hatred at all on their platform. And I've evidence of that. I've got at least 100 reports that I've put in the last 4 weeks, and not one of those reports, not one of them has been has been removed. So I think times are tough, but I think people from minority groups are tougher, if you want, you know, like, because you're born to be resilient, you're born to break through barriers. You're, like, you know, it's kind of your genetics, because you've no other choice in life to be able to survive, to get to what you and what your children, your peers deserve and your community deserves, you know. So years ago I used to walk into rooms and feel a bit like horrible about myself and stuff, and what am I doing here, the traveller at it again. But one of my friends said to me, if you're not as good as everybody, if you're not better, sorry, before I keep getting phone calls, if you're not better than everybody else in that space, you're just as good. And that's my advice to young people, is that if you're not better than the surroundings you're in, you're just as good as everybody else in the room. And I think that's important, because we have got demons, as you know yourself, Samantha, probably better than a lot of people here, that a lot of demons can be in our heads, and how we deal with those demons, and tell ourselves that we're good enough, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
That just hit the nail on the head, didn't it? I mean, that was beautiful. If you're not better than your surroundings, you're just as good as everybody else. Like, I feel like that's going to be my motto now for the rest of my life. Imposter syndrome 101, being in the student union, and being up in front of thousands of people on a daily basis. So totally get it. I get, we regularly. It's like, there was a running joke the other day. It's like, what is it, every time Louise puts a post up, we end up getting a load of abuse. So it's like having those conversations, being brave enough to put your hand up and say, look, we don't agree with body shaming or fat shaming. We want everyone to be equal. We want everyone to have platforms. So let's just do it. If I have to be the one to put the message out, I'm the one to get the abuse. So Eileen, I hear you. It's happening with us as well in the student union movement. But I could listen to you talk all day, girls. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Eileen. And I know you have somewhere to be now. You're welcome to stay on and listen in the background, but I know you have to go.
I have to get the 1 o'clock bus to Dublin.
Oh, geez, fair play to you. Well, you can listen back to the recording.
I will do.
But
listen, thanks so much for the invitation. Again, you know, I just think it's so important that we use these kind of platforms to be able to feel safe, that we're with people who are similar thinking to ourselves, you know, and to be able to reach out to each other and have that support. So thanks so much.